devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion, going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
Play it on the car ride, play it when you lounge. X and O, you know that we can hold it down. Shout out to my man Sammy, got it off the ground. And to all the listeners tuned in right now, got debates, analysis, and speculation. This is sports talk for the new generation. You know where to find us, got a reputation. Sick podcast, your #1 sports destination.
Giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion, going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
S-I-C-K, it's the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props, or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk back. S-I-C-K,
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 S-I-C-K.
All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
S-I-C-K, it's the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props, or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk facts.
Giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion, going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
Play it on the car ride, play it when you lounge. X and O, you know that we can hold it down. Shout out to my man Sammy, got it off the ground. And to all the listeners tuned in right now, got debates, analysis, and speculation. This is sports talk for the new generation. You know where to find us, got a reputation. Sick podcast, your #1 sports destination.
Giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion, going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
S-I-C-K, it's the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props, or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk back. S-I-C-K,
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 S-I-C-K.
Turn up your volume. Because you're about to listen to The Sick Podcast. The Eye Test with Pierre McGuire and Jimmy Murphy.
The Stanley Cup winning Colorado Avalanche. And after 22 years, Raymond Mark
The sickest NHL podcast. Brought to you by TCS Customs and Logistics. Moving pieces, delivering peace of mind. It's gonna be sick.
And welcome to another week of the Eye Test here on the Sick Podcast Network. He's Pierre McGuire. I am Jimmy Murphy. And man, what a weekend of hockey we had, Pierre. We will get to the main event yesterday that everyone's talking about today. What a crazy game with the New York Rangers and Florida Panthers in Game 3. But let's go back to Saturday quickly, Pierre. Just your thoughts on the Stars. I think as most expected, bouncing back even in a series. This could be a long series here. They made the necessary adjustments, as Pete DeBoer always seems to do.
Made good adjustments, got some really good goaltending from Jake Ottinger when they needed to. Obviously, a timely goal by Mason Marchment. A bad goalie pull by the Edmonton Oilers way too early without possession. Not a smart play, which leads to the Essa Lindell empty net goal, which was enough to seal the victory. But hard hockey, not the most artistically impression type hockey, but hard hockey. And we'll see where the series goes. I think Dallas will continue to get better. We'll see how the pressure of the Edmonton environment affects the team. I'm talking about the Oilers on home ice. And Stuart Skinner's got to be better. He was excellent in Game 1. I think everybody would agree. I don't think he was excellent in Game 2. I'm not saying he was the reason for the loss,
right?
But he needs to be better.
He can be better for sure. And quickly, too, I forgot. I want to also say Memorial Day here in the States as well. Thank you to all who are serving or have made the ultimate sacrifice for us, Pierre. I know we both have veterans in our family. We both have been connected to people that have made that sacrifice, and we appreciate it very much.
Mm-hmm. Well said, Jimmy. I appreciate it. And to everybody out there that's lost loved ones, we're thinking of you today in particular. Yeah.
All right, but back to that game. Yeah, and look, Pierre, I'm with you. Can Stuart Skinner be better? Yes, but I think we all know that whether the Edmonton Oilers win or lose, it's likely not going to be Stuart Skinner, right? It's going to be that they're able to establish their game, and they're also able to play tighter, physical, more defensive-oriented hockey than they have tended to do in the past. So I'm with you on that. I don't put the blame on him, but he can be better. But let's forward to Sunday, Pierre. Look, full confession, I was at a concert festival yesterday, so I was watching this game with no volume in a bar, which, according to some people with me, was better that way. But we'll let that go. Anyhow, we're watching the game, Pierre, and it's back and forth, and it's just people like that weren't even paying attention to the game started coming over and getting glued in, and it was a cool hockey moment. People are really getting into it. Even Bruins fans, they didn't care. They just want to watch a good hockey game. But Pierre, that thing had everything. That game was just, I'd say, arguably the best game of the third round so far of this conference final round. I loved it. What were your thoughts there? If you're Paul Maurice, how are you looking to make adjustments? What would be the most glaring thing you saw that you didn't like?
Nothing. I liked everything I saw from my team.
Wow.
Thought my team was really good. The only thing I would talk about is gap control in the neutral zone. The second Lafreniere goal, that's just not a good play by Kulikov. And I made the point. As you know, I'm working for the National Hockey League right now on their nightly podcast called Stanley Cup Central. So we're on the entire game, and I made that point. I just said that can't happen. And the way the Florida plays neutral zone defense, Kulikov makes a terrible play. It's too easy a read for Lafreniere, and it leads to a goal that the artistic impression is phenomenal, but really that's Lafreniere's wheelhouse. He's a big guy with good speed and excellent hands, and he finished off the post, and it's a spectacular play by him, but brutal defense by Kulikov. If I'm Paul Maurice, that's all I'm focused on, better gap control. Everything else was really good. Look, their penalty killing has been elite in this whole series. I think the Rangers have 1 goal on 14 chances in the whole series. So, what else do you want? Could their power play be better? I guess it could be. Mm-hmm. But you got to give – I texted this to Jimmy this morning. Shesterkin is the reason why Rangers have won. That's why they're up 2-1 in this series. So I don't know what else Maurice can do. He can't put the puck in the net for the players. Here's what I was a bit concerned with. It's just starting to gain traction now. Mm-hmm. If you watch at the end of the game, the Rangers come off the bench, obviously, to celebrate with Wenberg, obviously the hero of the game. And as they're coming off, or onto the ice, I should say, Oliver Ekman-Larsson takes a whack at Rempe, and Matthew Tkachuk goes after Rempe. Now, nobody's identified those players, but I've watched it enough, and I can see, it's 91 and it's 19, just inverted numbers. And they go after him. And I don't know if that carries over or not, but I know it's going to carry over when the referees meet with the teams.
Didn't Ekman-Larsson, for sure. Didn't Ekman-Larsson, I forget what goal it was on, Pierre, maybe one of the Lafrenières. Did he get sort of bulldozed in a celebration then too?
Yep. He did.
Okay, so I'm wondering, was that carryover from that? Was it, or just kind of?
They went to Rempe. They went to Rempe.
Yeah. Okay.
It wasn't that Rempe went to them.
He was targeted. Gotcha. I got you. Like you said, go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
I was going to say, like you say, though, about Shesterkin. I mean, it's rare when you can say that a goalie lets in 4 goals and he stole a game, but he stole a game. I mean, and that's not to discredit anything the Rangers did. I mean, they still have to win and score on the other end, but some of those saves are just phenomenal.
You know how sometimes you go to church, Jimmy, and the priest at the end of the sermon says, my challenge for you this week is, be a better person, be a better father, whatever. There's a different challenge every week from the priest, at least at the church I go to. So I'm watching that game and I'm going, after going to church yesterday, and I'm saying to my, after I've done work, I'm saying, what would be my challenge? You asked me about what Paul Maurice would do.
Yeah.
Here would be my thing. What would be my challenge to the ticket holders in Florida to stop selling their tickets to Ranger fans? Can you just –
Yeah.
I get it. I respect the Ranger fans so much. Like, they love their team.
Yeah.
They love their team. They're infatuated beyond belief with their team, and they really think this is their year to win the cup. And it could be. It very well could be. But how are they getting those tickets?
Those people.
How are they getting tickets in Florida?
Because those people are taking those season ticket holders are taking those tickets and selling them. And Florida's done everything they can to prevent this too, Pierre. As of other teams, I know Carolina takes steps to prevent that from happening, where the visitors team fans will take over the building. But look, we said it to George Richards, right, that it has been kind of pushed aside, that whole thing, for a bit now. They do a better job of getting more of a home crowd there. But, like I said, I couldn't hear it when I was watching live, but I've been looking at the highlights, researching for the podcast today. And, yeah, I mean, it sounded like MSG South. It was unbelievable.
It really was. There were times in that game I was like, who's the home team here?
Yeah.
And that's why I'm saying, if you asked me a really good question at the start, if you were Paul Maurice, what would you want to do different? And I told you nothing.
Yeah, just the gap.
But the gap in the neutral zone. But I'm saying, I can't believe how well that team played, considering they weren't just battling the Rangers. They were almost battling like they were playing on the road.
I know. And that's tough. That's demoralizing when you're in your own building.
The name of the priest at the church I go to is Father Tom.
Okay.
Well, I feel like calling Father Tom right now, even though I wouldn't. And say, Father Tom, what's your challenge for the Florida Panthers season ticket holders?
We got to get, I don't know, how we would do it, since it's a religious thing, Pierre, but maybe some kind of church or somebody will sponsor the segment. Pierre's sermon. It's bound to happen. We got to make it happen here. Pierre's challenge, and you just pick a team, a player, a coach, a goalie, whatever, what have you. We'll get it going. I'll think of some idea here.
I know you will. You always do.
I will. All right, let's get Pierre before we get our guest on. I'm going to check right here. We don't have him yet, and of course, great call by you here, a man you know very well, Scott Lennox. He's a producer for Hockey Night in Canada on Sportsnet. I did my research on him today. He knows a lot of people, by the way, that I do too, in Denver. You mentioned to me that he's based there, and he went to DU. He played there. Looking forward to talking to him and maybe just getting a peek inside what it's like producing playoff games versus regular season. And obviously, the deeper you go into the playoffs, how much more it ramps up on the production side, stuff that the viewer doesn't see, and I'd like to ask him about that when we do get him on. You've been in the middle of it, Pierre, so you know what it's like. One
of the reasons I wanted him on, he produces in a Canadian market, and not just one, but all of them.
Mm-hmm.
And you know how you just raised a really good point about preparing for the playoffs?
Mm-hmm.
When you're doing TV in Canada, especially at the production level, every game is a game 7.
Yeah.
Every game. So to say that there's a difference, I'd say no.
No.
None. And where Scott was really trained was at TSN. He was on our World Junior crew, and every single World Junior those ratings are actually larger than Stanley Cup.
Oh
ratings
yeah,
in Canada, except for when a team reaches a Stanley Cup final.
yeah.
And then, then it's different. I think Scotty, I'll have to ask him, but I think he was on our crew that did the Olympic gold medal game in 2010. And that show did 26 million people. It's the largest television show in Canadian TV history.
Wow.
To 26 million. Cuthbert and I were on that show. And it was unbelievable. And I think Scotty was in the truck, if I remember correctly. But you prepare every game in Canada, having done it for over 12 years, regular season game like it's a game 7.
Yep.
You really do. It's just a different animal.
Yep.
And then when I went to NBC, Jimmy, I feel really comfortable sharing this with you and our audience. We brought that same template to NBC, and they brought their NFL football experience to the broadcast as well. And so that I don't want to compare. That's not what I'm trying to do. I'm just trying to show you when hockey really took off from 2005 to probably 20, just before the pandemic. It started up so 15 or 16 years. That was a combination of the TSN template from Canada and the NFL template from NBC, Sunday Night Football. That's what it was.
Okay.
And you can check. I mean, don't take my word for it. Just go look at the ratings. It changed the dynamic of how hockey was done.
It's so interesting you say this, because right as you start to talk, I was thinking about, well, that's kind of like Monday Night Football or Sunday Night Football. That's how they treat it. And it's interesting that you say they did combine the ideas together. Pierre, too, before we get to, I want to ask you, you mentioned World Juniors and what he did there. And you were part of that too, Pierre. I mean, there was a period where, in Canada, obviously it was big, but it wasn't getting the attention it was across North America that it's had now for 10, 12, 15 years. You were part of making that a go-to destination for hockey fans. What was that like in the beginning?
An amazing honor and privilege. Lots of pressure. First one I did was 2003 in Halifax. That team probably shouldn't have got to the gold medal game. It did. Lost to a 16-year-old Alexander Ovechkin's team.
Oh, wow.
But here's what was special about that. Marc-Andre Fleury, it was his coming out party. He was phenomenal in that event. And it really, really showed you. It was the first time the World Junior ever had more than 1 million viewers. I think our gold medal game was 2.65 million viewers.
Wow.
That's amazing. That's in a country of 33 million people.
Wow.
And then it just exploded from there. So Gordon and I did nine together. And Canada went to, believe it or not, Canada went to the gold medal game every year for 9 straight years. Now they only won 5. They won 5. Not only won 5. They won 5, but they went 9 straight years that I was there. They went to the gold medal game, and every team was different. And every team was coached differently, except for 05 and 06, because 05 and 06 is only one person, and that's Daryl Sutter. And I'm just telling you right now, Brent Sutter. He's spectacular. He was spectacular. He wasn't a little good, Jimmy. He was really good.
He had it down.
I'm just telling you, what he was able to do in 05 with all those superstars who should have been in the NHL and weren't because of the lockout was amazing.
Right.
But what he was able to do the next year with really only one superstar, that was Jonathan Taves. There were a lot of good players in that team, and a lot of them went on to have NHL careers. But what he was able to do with that team was unbelievable.
It's amazing. That's amazing. Yeah, I mean, it's. I just remember when that was starting to blow up and get bigger and bigger each year in the States. It was great, and you guys brought a lot of Americans into it. And it also became, it was kind of hand in hand with the holidays, Pierre. Like, people consider that part of the holidays for them. When you sit down on Boxing Day after a nice Christmas meal the day before, and people are still returning presents, and you sit back. Yeah, sure. You guys go to the mall. I'll be watching the World Juniors here.
It's what's interesting to do. I've done obviously a lot of interviews about the World Junior and how it grew. And one of the things that I always thought of is Canada doesn't have a bowl season. They don't have Division I college. They have college football, but it's not Division I college football like you have here. So I always equated the World Junior to being Canada's version of the bowl
Mhm.
season, which is during the holiday Christmas season. And so if you really look at it, it's really similar.
It is.
It's
It
really,
is.
really similar.
Yep.
You know, I only missed, actually, I missed 2 Winter Classics in all my time at NBC. And one was because I was in Pardubice in the Czech Republic doing the World Junior. And I couldn't get back and forth in time to make the medal round. So TSN wouldn't let me go, which I completely understood.
Mm-hmm.
And the second one was after the New Year's Eve game, Canada versus US in Saskatoon, there was a hailstorm. There was an ice storm. And we could not leave the arena because cars were frozen into the ground.
Oh my
And
God.
they were so much, you couldn't, it was like skating on the roads. So I couldn't get to the airport to get to my flight. So I had to call Sam Flood up from the rink and say, "You're not going to believe this." And I'm not bailing out. Like, you can ask Raymond Bork. He's sitting here watching his son play in the tournament. He's sitting right next to me. I can't get out. He goes, "Come on." I said, "I'm telling you, go to the
Literally froze here.
They were frozen in.
That's
So I couldn't get in. So I had to watch. Those are the 2 Winter Classics that I missed.
Well, a man who will have some junior stories as well, and some great broadcast stories, joining us now here on the Eye Test on the Sick Podcast Network, and that's Scott Lennox of Sportsnet and Hockey Night in Canada. We bring him in. It says we have him in the studio here, Pierre. We'll get him in.
Yeah, don't worry.
Okay, yeah, we're good. We're working on it. So we'll get him in a second, Pierre. Quickly, we won't do it now, Pierre, but I do want, when we're done with Scott, before we go to our questions, we do need to talk about the Trouba hit, because you made me see the light on my way home from Boston this morning talking about it, because at first I thought, why is everyone making, but then I saw it, and it's very much, I know, like you said, and you made a great point, it is open ice here, but it's very much like the earlier round when he almost took a guy's head off.
Marty Natchez. He almost decapitated Marty Natchez.
So there's a pattern there, like you said, and it's not good. That's
the one thing I'm going to bring up, and nobody wants to hear it because they're thinking, "Oh, McGuire's backing up Sidney Crosby again, his little boy." His hits on Crosby,
oh yeah,
are borderline. Like they're over the line. They're over. Yeah. So I understand. I understand how Jacob plays. If I had a team, I'd want Jacob on my team, and I just think that at some point you got to reel it in just a little. You're the captain of the team. Scott Stevens was a nasty piece of business, Jimmy.
Oh yeah.
I'll tell you what. I have so much respect for Scotty and the way he played the game, and had a chance to spend a lot of time with him when he was coaching the league. When he was playing, you didn't even go near him. You don't want to bug him. He might beat you up. But when he was coaching, I had a chance to spend time with him. And the one thing that I always admired about Scott Stevens, huge hits, never got a major penalty.
And I did not. I was going to tell our listeners, I did not know that until Pierre told me that today. Did not know that at all. And that is amazing to me, considering the way this man played. Not even by accident that he ended up with one.
Nice, but he was like, he understood his role.
Yeah.
Everything. Go watch all his hits. Like the big hits on Lindros, the big hits on Paul Correa in the Stanley Cup final in 2003. Like, there's a million of them. You can go look. His arms are always down. It's always down here, or it's always down here, but it's never up. And that's the difference, Jimmy. That's the difference. Trouba comes up.
Yes. Predatory. We're going to get back to this after we talk to Scott. I do believe we're good to go with Scott here. Welcome him on the Eye Test on the Sick Podcast Network. Scott, how you doing?
Great. How are you guys?
Good. Good to have you here.
No Pioneer outfit on. I figured he'd be strutting the colors because they're national champs and everything else 2 times in 4 years. Where are the colors, Scott?
You want to rub it into the UMass guy here. That's all. I appreciate it.
I don't have my 10 verse shirt yet. Hey, 10
Oh, boy. That's funny right there, Jimmy. I'm in our heart.
It's well-earned pride. Well-earned pride. Yeah, Pierre was telling me you're a proud Denver alum who played there. That must have been something for you to watch that this year.
Yeah, I mean, they're unbelievable. When I was there, we weren't good. Let's just put it mildly. Just not a good team, and a lot of fun though. That's all that matters. Going to the games, but when George came on and Monty and now DC, that's a heck of a program, and they're getting the best kids, and it's amazing. It's fun to watch. Every year they're going to compete for the national championship.
Yeah, it's something, Pierre.
No, that's a big part of the growth of hockey in Colorado. It's not just the Colorado Avalanche, it's DU and the program of excellence that they have. And what people forget, and Scott knows this, they were good back in the 60s, right, Scotty? I mean, it's not like this is newfangled. They were a legendary program for a long period of time.
So when I moved there, I came from Winnipeg and didn't know much about the city other than, mountains, whatever. But I didn't understand how much hockey was in Denver and how many, Canadians and Minnesotans were out there and just the tradition and all these old veteran players. And it was like, you go skating, even beer league or in the summer, and you'd be like, wow, I can't believe that guy played here. Or, and the other thing that blew me away, Pierre, is like in the summers back when I was actually, decent, how many current NHLers, they would just show up at your random skates and they train there in the summer. And I'd be like, oh, do you live here? No, just want to be here for the summer, altitude or whatever. And then the Avs came, and then obviously a lot of guys started moving there. But it's a tremendous state for hockey, and it's to Pierre's point, it's not just the Avs. I mean, Colorado College is getting better, and Air Force is decent, but they got always they compete, and then DU is elite, right, basically. And then even the Colorado Eagles up in Longmont, they contend for titles. Now they're AHL. But the East Coast, they would always contend. So it's a great market.
Agreed.
Great stuff. So tell us, for our listeners and viewers and myself too, that's not behind the scenes, what it's like broadcasting or putting together a broadcast for a game on Hockey Night in Canada.
Well, the best way I think you assess it is it's organized chaos. And it's like you don't know you can do it until you do it. There's no training ground. You just get thrown in. You've done a million games. I came up through the ranks with Pierre and, did 100 games. And then all of a sudden, you figure out you want to produce, and then you produce. And there's no training. It's like, okay, we think you can do it, but it's, feet in the fire. Here we go. It's the closest thing to being in competitive sports now that you're not in competitive sports. Mm-hmm. Right. So it's teamwork. The director and the producer have to be in sync. The producer and the tape guys have to be in sync. The color commentator and the producer have to be in sync. The director and the cameras have to be in sync. It's just one massive, I've never played football, but it's like football with the coordinators, right? Everyone is coordinating it, and somehow we all bring it together and make TV, and it's great. And it's a pretty cool feeling. Pierre can obviously comment on this more than I can, but like you don't get a feeling like that unless you play sports. And then once sports is taken away from you, high level sports, this is as close as you can get. You walk away. We don't care who wins. All we care about is a great show. Mm-hmm. And like last night was a great moment. 5-4 game, unbelievable. The Trouba hit, everything going on, goals. Lafreniere scoring an unbelievable goal. And then we nailed it all. So you just walk out of there and you're like, yes, fist bumps all around. We nailed that.
Yeah, you need that team background, like you say, too, though, to understand the foundation of how it all works with the team. Pierre?
So proud of Scotty for the way you just described that. That's letter perfect, because I agree with you 100%. I was working that game just from my house, but doing it for the NHL. Scotty, I got to ask you, you did so many World Juniors, and you were part of the team that I was part of. Can you explain to the viewers and the listeners and to Jimmy, what's it like when you're in the truck for a World Junior gold medal game, and just what that's like?
Yeah, I mean, it's an intense feeling working in those games. I was privileged enough to do, I think I did 4 of them. I did one in Canada, but I did one the one that stood out for me was Sweden, because you're Canadian and you're thinking, okay, it's great in Canada, but it doesn't resonate anywhere else, right? And then I got to go to Sweden and I got to go to Russia, and you see that, like, yeah, they care about it in other countries, and it's pretty cool sitting in the stands. And we're in Ufa, Russia, and that was one of the craziest life experiences, but B, hockey experiences. You're sitting in the stands with, Ufa's not like Moscow. I mean, I've never been to Moscow, but they don't speak. There's no English. There's zero English.
You're deep in the heart of it.
Yeah, and it's like these guys love the game. I remember one of my favorite memories was I was at a restaurant, standing in line, trying to using my Google Translate and going to the guy, here's what I want, right? Because they don't speak any English. and these two little kids are in front of me, and I'm like, oh, just waiting for my meal, and the guys, they know they know you're not from there, and I asked the kids, I'm like, oh, you Ovechkin, and they go, no, Crosby. So I thought that was pretty cool.
One summer, Brent Sutter and I were there with Team Canada in Ufa. We were there for 7 days. We were in Russia for a total of 21, but we were in Ufa for 7. And the military hadn't been paid in 3 months, and there's only one McDonald's in town. And the Russian guys that hadn't been paid, they had their rifles out, and Brent and I are walking down the street. We're like, are they going to shoot us? We're doing target practice with the Golden Arches. They were shooting at the Golden Arches.
How about the delis when you walk in the mall and they're literally cutting chickens' heads off in the deli?
Right?
Like, oh yeah, like there's blood flying, and then, oh, by the way, you can go buy some shoes over here. It's just insane.
Ufa is about a 3.5-hour flight from Moscow. It's not like it's around the corner. It's pretty far. So, and then you go another 3 hours and you're in Omsk.
Yep.
It's far. People don't realize how far it is. I've been there numerous times. It's far.
Well, if you guys, we were just talking to Pierre about it a little before you came on, Scott, but just if you can remember when you kind of, and Pierre, you can jump in on this too, but when you kind of knew this is going to hit, like this is becoming something bigger than maybe we thought it would be. Like you were just talking, you didn't understand if it would hit in certain countries. When did you start to get that feeling that you were really building something here that would become a tradition?
Well, Pierre could speak more to this because I came when it was in the glory days, to be honest. Pierre Pierre did it was when it was just coming up and it was good, but it wasn't great. And then I don't know when my guess is Pierre, the Vancouver one, that kind of where it went prime time and everyone, Canada didn't have a very good team that year, and the U.S. should have won. U.S. had Kessel. They had, I can't remember. They had Jack Johnson.
They had two Johnsons.
Yeah, they should have won that. They should have won Corey Schneider. They should have won that tournament. And Canada had no right winning that tournament. And Canada, I think, beat them pretty succinctly. And that to me was when it resonated. Like, wow, this is kind of cool. I didn't work that one, so Pierre can probably talk to that better.
It's funny you would bring that one up. It's what I talked to Jimmy about. I said there's only one thing that's similar from 05 to 06, and 05, obviously the super team. That's where I really think it started to take off. There was no NHL hockey. And you had Getzlaff and Perry and Crosby and Bergeron, Phaneuf. 05's where it really started to launch. But there's one thing that's only similar between the two, and that's Brent Sutter. Brent coached in 05, and Brent coached that mediocre Canadian team in 06. And they pulled a lot of upsets. They beat the Russians, too. I mean, Malkin was playing for the Russians, and he was really good. He wasn't a little bit good. He was really good. But that's where it started to launch. So, Scott, speaking of launching, what was the take of your crew about the Trouba elbow, no elbow?
So it's funny, Pierre, because we also did the Marchand game and the punch. And, it's so funny when you work in this business, nothing is as intense as it is in the moment, but nothing is scrutinized as it is a day later, right? Yeah. So we do our best to cover these moments, and we cover it. And then you wake up today, same with the Marchand. Everyone's all over it. The punch, and then the history. He did this in the Toronto series, blah blah blah. And then Trouba today, the launch. Now everyone's like, he's got a history of this, blah blah blah. And I think we covered it great. I think, I always bring this back. Like, I played the game, but I didn't play in the NHL. So I resort to guys like on our panel, Bieksa, Gary Galley, who have played at that level. I've never played in a playoff game. Only those guys have played in playoff games. They know. Trouba has a history of that, obviously, but he does hit to whatever the word leans. He leans, right? And when I first saw it, I didn't think it hit his head. We had the luxury of super slow-mo. It did hit. It hit the jaw, right? So technically that's in the head. It's not head, but it's a headshot, right? But I'll be honest with you. I watch things like that, and every day I'm just like, where are we going to draw the line, and what are we doing in terms of protecting? You can't go one. It's a broad spectrum, and my theory is I didn't think it was that bad. I think he lunged. I don't think he was hit, but once again, I divert to guys like Bieksa and Gals. Gals was like, it's a headshot. 100% it's a major. The EXA doesn't think that. So that's what I'm saying. It's such a weird, which way you go.
The one I thought was worse was against Marty Natchez in the New York Carolina.
Yeah.
I think if he hit him there, that could have potentially been the end of Natchez's career. I'm not kidding you.
Yeah.
That could have been a lethal blow.
Yeah.
And that was the one I was more concerned about than yesterday's. But anyways,
we had a great shot. And see, here's the thing about the NHL, and both you guys know this. It's a fantastic game, and it is fast, it is skilled, and they're getting more skilled every year, and it's insane the amount of skill level these kids have. But the one thing we have that other sports don't have is vicious, and we can't lose how vicious the game is, because if we do, then we're taking steps back. And I'm not mandating and saying that's acceptable, but we can't lose that in the game. We can't lose the ability that you might come across the middle, toe drag a guy, but you also might get crushed, and you can't have it both ways. Like it's a vicious game.
I think, Scott, going back to that, I think you're going to see a lot more size guys drafted than small little tricksters. We were going that way for 5 or 6 years, especially based on analytic drafting. And I think now guys are realizing, I heard Brad Treliving's press conference when they hired, Craig Berube in it 3 times in a row. Character. He said it 3 times in a row. I think we're going back to what you're talking about. Vicious is going to be part of it, and size is going to be a big part of it.
Yeah.
Well, look at the teams that have won recently. I mean, you can do whatever you want in the regular season, but even you go back to St. Louis, Washington. My memory's terrible, but they're all big. They're all big teams. They're all massive. Their D's are massive, right? I can't remember. There's a great quote, and I'm terrible at remembering, but it's something like, you have to have, what is it, a bunch of trees, but you can have 1 shrub or something like that. And if you have a Quinn Hughes, that's fine, but you better have 5 shrub or 5 trees.
Oh, yeah.
So I used to say when I was doing the games with you, you can go swing with the big trees down low, then you got a chance to win. But if you can't swing with them, you got no shot at all. And that's absolutely true. Vegas's defense, Tampa's defense, St. Louis's defense, they were all big trees, and nobody had shrubs. There were no shrubs.
Yeah. I wondered, guys, too, you're talking about, and I agree, we can't lose the physical element and in the chaos, the perfect chaos, as you were talking about earlier, of a game. However, when you're talking about, headshots and safety and all that, and I thought this was another perfect example of, and I don't know how you'll ever do it. I don't think it can be done. But if there was a way to somehow prove intent, as opposed to just base everything on the result, maybe if they started judging it more on, clearly he's trying to take him out, with Natchez there, but you can't penalize it, right? Because there was no hit. There was no act that was deemed a penalty there in the rule book. So I'm wondering, is there ever a way with camera views or just with what you're doing that you could help the league show, hey, this guy's really got a lot of intent every time he's hitting. It's not just about hitting. He's trying to hurt. He's trying to injure.
Well, I'll give you insight to our truck tomorrow. We got to tell stories, right? That's what we do. We tell stories. Mm-hmm. So the story tomorrow is Trouba has a history, and I'm not judging. I stick to black and white facts. The history is he has a hit on, this
Crosby.
guy lunge, this guy lunge, right? We're going to show you. I don't judge what that is. We let the viewer determine that. So to your point, does that help the league? I don't know. At least that's a historical relevance, because there's 5 examples of him doing that, right? And then we leave it for what it is, right?
Okay.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's really good. Who's going to win this series that you're covering?
I think it's Florida. Florida's the better team, but the Rangers got some magic right now, right? They do, and and look at it's 2-1, and Panarin's done nothing, right? Mm-hmm. And not that I'm saying he just hasn't produced. He hasn't been Panarin-like, right? So that's pretty impressive when you got you're up 2-1 in a series and your big boy isn't even showing up.
Yeah.
So that's but that was kind of like, how was Boston in that series? They were, and they probably shouldn't have been, right? Mm-hmm. So are we going down that road again with Florida? I don't know. If I'm wagering Florida, but we'll see. I think I tell you what, it's going 7. There's no doubt in my mind it's going 7.
That too.
So it's a good Christmas for the Lennox household if it's going 7.
I'm a staff guy, Pierre. I get paid whether it goes 4 or 7. Now, Jamie Brannigan, on the other hand, wants it to go 7.
Okay, so now you're going inside baseball. So now I got to talk about the best EVS operator in the history of hockey. His name is Jamie Brannigan. I worked with Jamie for probably 17 years, and there's nobody even close to what he does. He's done Olympics with me, Stanley Cup finals with me, World Junior finals. I don't even know how many NHL games, hundreds. He's without a doubt. Scotty, if I'm wrong, tell me.
No,
Best,
he's the best guy in the league. So he makes guys like Pierre and Gals and Simmer look smart, and they speak a different. So there's a thing called talkback where the announcers get on and like, mark that, do this, do the hit. And sometimes you're like, what language are you guys speaking? Because I have no clue what the heck you want. And I look up and I'm like, there it is. That's what Pierre's talking about. I'm like, all right, go to it. Pierre's like, that's great, awesome. So like, it's a different language, man. It's analysts and lead EV operators have a different language.
You know what'd be cool? You know what'd be a cool show, I think, is for people to be able to hear in to the talk between the truck and the analyst.
Oh.
People would actually know how a show's put together and how busy the producer is, how busy the director is, but how easy the ops are. Like a guy like Jamie Brannigan, it's amazing. You know, Scotty, you know, because we kind of created the template for what's going on now. There was a lot more talking and a lot more packages built because of people like Jamie than ever before.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's the way I assess it or evaluate it is simple. You either can do this job or you can't. And it's not just me, it's director, it's the EVS guys, it's the graphics people. It's for 3 hours, you are on notice. Everything's thrown against the wall and it comes out as a great show. But you're listening, you know, like in my headset, I'm listening to minimal 10 voices, right? People are like, how do you deal with that? I'm like, I don't know, but I just do. And it's the same thing with the tape guys. Like, how do you know what Pierre wants there? He's marking little things as the play's going on and he's talking. It's like, I don't know, I just do. And that's how we kind of pull it off.
Yeah. It must feel great too, guys, when you feel that. Maybe when you start off, I don't know, Pierre, when you first started working with Jamie, but I'm sure you kind of got a vibe. I can work with this guy. Like there's a chemistry, there's something there, and you build off it.
The first game I ever did with him, our late friend, and Scotty's a friend, is Darren Detishin and I were doing a game in Vancouver, and Jamie was on the crew. And that's the first time I ever met him. That was in 2000. It's a long time ago.
Wow.
24 years ago. And Jamie was there, and that's the first time we ever met. And I don't think when I was doing Canadian TV, I never worked with anybody else but Jamie on every show, including all the Olympics. And then he was so good. I went to the people at NBC and I said, "We're going to get this guy on shows." He was so good. And he was on. It's great.
That's awesome. Good stuff. Well, listen, Scott, we appreciate you taking the time and joining us. I know you're a busy man. We'll let you go, but enjoy the rest of the playoffs, and we'll get you on down the line sometime.
Yeah, guys, I really appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
Well, before you let him go, don't go anywhere yet. I just want to tell you how proud I am of you, how well you're doing, and your shows are outstanding. And I'm proud of your whole team. I know you are.
You know, I appreciate it, Pierre. It means a lot. You know, when you come up through the ranks, and you know, it's not like any other business. You come up the ladder, you do the low end jobs, and you come all the way up. And now I'm privileged to be where I'm at and doing the conference final. And you know, there's so many guys to thank, and you're one of them. And I just, you know, the bottom line is, every night I go into a show, you know, I just want to entertain people. We sometimes forget that we are in the entertainment business, right? And hockey is, and we broadcast the game, but let's not forget, we're also here to entertain the guy for 2.5 hours.
Yeah.
So, and I was taught that by a lot of guys. I've worked with, you know, Pierre, Glenn Healy, you know, guys I really, really respect in the business. And you guys taught me. And I thank you for this, Pierre. And thanks for having on.
I'm so happy you came on. Thank you, Scotty. That was really good intel on the Florida series and especially the Trouba stuff. We'll be watching tomorrow for sure.
Appreciate it.
Guys.
Thanks.
All right,
Thank you. All right, bye.
Join us here on the eye test. That was good. I'm glad we had him on, Pierre. Really good insight.
He is a smart person. He is as talented as there is in the truck. You know, I've worked with some amazing producers. Dougie Walton was as good as there was. He does Toronto Blue Jays now. Sam Flood, you know, he was amazing producer. Matt Marvin, who did the Indianapolis 500 yesterday. I mean, he was our producer at the NHL on NBC.
Wow.
Oh, I'm just telling you, like I worked with all these guys, and this kid that you just had on, he's as good as there is anywhere.
Yeah.
He's really good, and he's a big reason why that show's good.
Yeah,
reason why, I'm just telling you.
Well, it's always nice, to give a face to the people behind the scenes. I love doing that because there's so much that goes on and goes into those broadcasts. So
we should show them that though. How it gets together. I think people would be dumb. Now, some analysts are more proactive than others, but I think they'd be shocked at the amount of discussion that goes on when you're. So I was
10 people at once in his ear,
10 people. So I was fortunate because I was given the license to build our own replay packs and he said storytelling. That's all it's about. It's about telling a story, and every game has a different storyline. Sometimes there are 5, sometimes there's 1. Sometimes it's just the goalie. Sometimes it's both goalies. Sometimes it's bad calls. Every game's different. So you got to be on it right away. And the storylines get built as a game goes along. And some of them you can flush and some of them you keep.
Yep.
But we had everything prepared instantaneously. So, I'll give you an example. Chris Kreider. Chris Kreider is as big and as fast as any left winger in the league.
Yep.
And when he was first coming in, nobody knew who he was. Unless you were a hockey person that watched Boston College, you didn't know who Chris Kreider was. Right. So one day we were doing a game at MSG. I think they were playing Tampa. We put together a prepackaged tape of Kreider just skating at all levels.
Wow.
And then in the game, he got 2 breakaways doing exactly what we were showing.
Oh, perfect.
This thing. So it worked out unbelievable.
Yeah.
And so, but in order to do that, you had to have watched hundreds of games that this guy played in and remembered them.
Which you did.
No, but that's how you do it. Yeah. And people like Scott would search those tapes out and then build them, and boom, you got a show.
No, I love it. And I'll tell you, Pierre, and I'm not just saying this because you're my teammate, but one of the best things I love about our podcast is when viewers or listeners will message me during or after a game and be like, you and Pierre were talking about this. You hinted that it might come to fruition. It might happen. So it's pretty cool to have that feeling when people are watching and they see exactly what we were trying to tell them actually, unfold in a game. So It's great stuff. All right. Well, let's talk about our sponsor quickly before we get over to the questions and comments in our section here right now. TCS Customs and Logistics. Unlock the full potential of your shipping operation with TCS Customs and Logistics. From around the corner to around the world, flatbeds to air freight, customs clearance to drawback consulting. TCS is a one-stop shop for all things transport, moving pieces and delivering a peace of mind. For no obligation customs or freight quote, contact sickpodcast@shiptcs.com. Again, that's sickpodcast@shiptcs.com. All right, what do we have for questions here on a Monday night as we get ready for Game 3 of the Western Conference Final? Randy Workman, question, Jimmy and Pierre, if you're Maurice, how do you stop your players doubting themselves?
You want to take that?
Like I said, I wasn't watching closely enough yesterday to see if that was the case, so I don't know how much they were doubting themselves, Pierre. I don't know if you noticed that at all. I haven't really noticed it.
They are. I on the show I was working, I said before the third period, I was asked, what do you do if you're Paul Maurice? I said, not much. You just tell the guys we're going to be more aggressive on the forecheck. We're going to jump our D down, and we're going to start putting more pucks on goal. And that's what they did. And they eventually got back in the game. And it really, if Shesterkin is not unbelievable at the tail end of the third period, Tkachuk should have scored. I mean, and then it's over in regulation. We didn't even go to overtime, and everybody's saying, what's Laviolette going to do to get his team back on track? So I don't think there's really much to worry about with Florida. They're still in pretty good position.
Yeah, I think this is going to be a back-and-forth series. All right, next question. Alex Ivanovsky, what's up, Alex? You talked about the Blue Jackets and the idea of potentially getting Lindholm back with Johnny Hockey. Do you think they should go that route or stick to the rebuild?
Well, even if they brought Lindholm in, it wouldn't be that they were going away from the rebuild. I think Donnie Waddell actually knows Elias Lindholm really well. I think he was part of trading him away. So I think he actually knows him pretty well. So we'll see. We'll see how that all plays out. But I don't think they need to deviate much. I'm happy for, by the way, really happy for Donnie Waddell.
Yeah.
He's getting an opportunity to move on and pick a spot. And he's a hockey lifer. He really is, Jimmy. He's a hockey lifer. He's a really good player at Northern Michigan. He's a guy that put a lot of time into the American Hockey League and the old IHL as a player, as a management person. And he battled to get to the NHL. I have a lot of respect for Donnie. I really do.
All right. Good stuff. Next question. Jason Logan. Hey, Pierre, did you hear that Pittsburgh is looking at hiring Yager, or is it just a rumor?
Well, I was just with Yarmer at Mary Lemieux's fantasy camp. He didn't say anything about that to any of us. He's really excited about owning his team in Kladno. I know there are lots of rumors because he presented yesterday at the Czechia gold medal game where they won. They beat Switzerland. With your buddy Pasternak scoring the goal. So I don't know. If they do, I don't think Aaron would be moving to Pittsburgh. He'd be in Czechia. But the last I talked to him, and I talked to him pretty recently, and it wasn't face-to-face, it was via text, concerning another issue, all good. I didn't get the feeling he was ready to stop playing yet.
Oh, great. God bless. So, by the way, I highly suggest for everyone out there that's on social media, find the video clips of Yager. I think it was one game he was going into the arena to watch a game, another was coming out. And just the way the people follow him all down the sidewalk and everything. It reminded me of like Rocky Balboa when he goes on that famous, jaunt, and then he goes up the stairs and he's just got everyone behind him and wanting to hug him. And he's such a man of the people, Pierre. That's what I love about him.
He really is. And he's gotten really good at it.
Yeah.
He wasn't always that way.
No, he had some years where he was a little rough around the edges. Yep.
He wasn't always that way, but I have nothing but fond memories of being around and working with Yarmer. Nothing but fond memories.
Me too. I mean, I only got to cover him from a trade deadline to Game 6 of the Stanley Cup Final in 2013, and it was great. It was a great experience. All right, next question. Mike would love to know if majority of owners give full control of the team to the management. Curious if Waddell left Columbus because Dundon was being too controlling.
I don't know.
We don't know the answers there, but I think there are instances. I mean, we're not going to name names or anything, Pierre, but obviously, sometimes owners want to dabble and don't let the hockey people do the hockey.
Well, I think it's really – so here's my theory on it, having been through it a long time ago, middle time ago, and just recently. I think it's really important that you keep your ownership informed at all times, just where you are budgetarily, just where you are athletically. And not just with your NHL team, but with your American League team and with your prospects. And it's really important because then everybody feels included.
I was just going to say.
And it's really important to do that.
Right.
I shared this story with you, and this is for the question. I remember one of the interviews that I did for the Montreal Canadiens GM job, and Jeff Molson asked me what I was going to do with 3 players. I'm not going to give you their names. And he said, would you keep him or buy him out? I said, I'm not buying anybody out until I get your permission. If you tell me that I have the ability to buy out a player, and I don't think he's going to help us, I'm going to buy the player out.
Right.
But if you tell me you're not buying him out, I'm not buying him out.
Yeah.
It's his money. It's not my money. Scotty told me a long time ago, Bowman, spend every single cent as if it's your own, then you respect the process.
Yeah.
And that's how I've always tried to conduct my business, whether it was on TV, whether it was on the radio, when I was scouting, when I was in management, when I was coaching. I never just thought there was a bottomless pit of money. And every single nickel like it's your own, and you'll be surprised at how much better you can do.
Yeah, and I think it's, to what you said in the beginning of that, Pierre, just including the owner and making sure he's looped in on everything. That is huge. Because this guy's got a ton of money invested in this team. He has the right to know these things. So as long as you're respecting his right to know everything, it's going to go a lot more harmonious, I would imagine.
I think that's a great way to look at it. Absolutely.
All right, next question. State of survival. I'm hearing Brady Tkachuk's name being thrown around in a trade mill. Most smoke is coming out of St. Louis. Does Otto need to do this? What would his price be, Pierre, before you say anything? Stales, again today, made a point of denying these rumors and saying this is ridiculous that this keeps coming out. It's total bogus. So that's that.
This is a disinformation campaign trying to hurt the new ownership and the management of the Ottawa Senators. That's what it is.
Yep.
Whether it's somebody that's jealous, whether it's somebody that's trying to be a smarty pants on the internet, it's not true. It's rude. He is the captain of the team. He's got a long-term contract. He's got a home that he owns in Ottawa. No. And that team's about to turn the corner. So no, this is, and I'm glad you referenced Steven Staios going to the media and saying there's nothing to it. No,
he must be like, how many times have I got to come out and say this? Like, get it through your heads, like it's frustrating.
Well, that's what I
know it's part of the job.
Somebody internally is gonna. That's why I think you got to have people that understand how the league works.
Yeah,
working with you. Eventually, they'll figure out who it is, and then.
They'll take care of that.
That's what happens.
I'm trying to think of a good Godfather quote right now. All right. Next question. Randy Workman, Jimmy and Pierre. I would like to know if you think Ryan Huska needs to bring in an experienced associate head coach.
I think he needs to bring experience. Kirk Muller is now gone. Mitch Love is gone. Those are all old Calgary guys that were there. Savard. Look, I get people like Mark Savard. I totally get it. But, he was a great power play player. But the power play in freaking Calgary was awful last year.
Yeah.
So, be careful. Sometimes you don't have enough assets either. And I don't think he had enough assets. But still – be careful. I mean, you don't anoint somebody as a superhero in a certain phase of the game if they don't have the numbers to back it up. I mean, I think I've told you this story before. It was one thing coaching in Pittsburgh with the players that we had, and it was a completely other thing coaching in Hartford with the players we had.
Yeah. I
didn't become a meathead, 2 months after I left Pittsburgh to go to Hartford.
Yeah.
We had just won 2 Stanley Cups.
Mm-hmm.
So, a lot of it has to do with – I made this statement on a show the other day. I said, there are a lot of guys that are getting serious credit for coaching teams in this league because they never had bad players. I'll show you. Give me that team, and he can go take somebody else's team.
Yeah, and see what happens.
See how good a coach he is. We'll see.
It's true. All right, next question. Joseph Scalia. Pierre, who we taking 5th? I can't take it anymore. Meaning the Habs for those that don't know.
I wish I knew. I know who I would seriously take as long as the right people are off the board. You don't know who's going to come off the board. There could be a big surprise.
Right.
But that Eiserman kid, I keep his name out there.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. All right.
I know he slid, but I'm telling you, if you want goals, you're going to get goals.
Well, sorry, we'll go to the next question in a second, but quickly, that's a good point by you, Pierre, in terms of him potentially sliding. The Canadians kind of let somebody slide by them last year because a lot of people were saying a lot of things about him, or he wasn't reportedly interviewing well, or there were all sorts of question marks about Mishkov. When you see a player like that, that's skill. And by the way, now it looks like he's coming over here for next season. When you see a player like that skilled slide by 1 year, are you more hesitant to not let it happen again when there's a question mark like that, or is it just completely separate?
Yeah, I think everybody's different on that.
Okay.
It's year to year, but it's a fair point. I still think the Canes did the right thing. There was no guarantee they were getting Mishkov out. Nope. And I haven't seen him in Philadelphia lately.
He's not there yet? No.
Okay, so when he gets there, let's talk about it.
All right. Next question. Ron LaRoque. Hey, guys, was on holidays. I hope you had fun, Ron. Why do people not give the Swiss hockey program enough credit? Agreed. They've been good for the last 10 years at least. Who or what gets the credit for the Swiss program? Great question.
What a really good question. So first of all, the Swiss have been good for a long time. I'll never forget in Saskatoon, Nino Niederreiter engineering an upset of the Russians. I was there calling the game with Gord Miller, and he was so darn good, Nino. I'll never forget that. But there have been so many. Mark Streit was a really good player for a long time.
Yep.
They're defensive. They've always had really good mobile defense. Not always the most skillful, but could all skate, and they were athletic. They've had relatively good goaltending. I think a lot of it has to do with they've had a lot of imports come in.
Mm-hmm.
Usually Canadian imports that have made their league better, but they've also had a fair number of Russians that have gone in there as well over the years. And they pay. It's one of the better paying leagues in Europe.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot to like about playing there. I mean, I've been to games in Lugano. I've been to games in Zurich. I've been to games in Geneva. They're special places to go. I mean, they just are. So
I know the Bruins didn't think they were going to get Joe Thornton back. He loved it so much over there.
He was in Davos. JoJo was in Davos. I could be wrong, but Jimmy, you might know this. I think Joe married a young lady from Davos.
He did, and he goes back there every summer. They spend like a month there, from what I know.
So again, it's hard not to like it.
Yeah, they've got some good players.
It's I remember Danny Heatley spent some time over there, obviously, and Patrick Kane. I think Patrick Kane played with Joe during one of the lockouts.
Yep,
I remember correctly. So they had a good time, and
good stuff.
It's a good place.
Remember, you're talking about goalies. Martin Gerber comes to mind. Was he not Swiss, Pierre? I believe right. Yeah. All right. Next question. Bilal Abdelmalik. Pierre, do you agree more NCAA games should be easier when it comes to accessibility? I feel like that would intrigue more people who want to become a fan of the game.
I don't know what that means about accessibility, Bilal. I apologize.
Yeah.
You can go to any game you want. Tickets are always available. Well, not every building. North Dakota is sold out every game.
Yeah.
North Dakota is close to sold out every game.
Maybe he means if he means Bilal, if you could just clarify, maybe you mean on TV. I don't know, but it's becoming more prevalent on TV.
If you do mean on TV, it's every game's on television now. You can get it on ESPN Plus in the United States. They're different. Not Live Barn. I don't think Live Barn does college.
No, they don't have the rights. No,
but Flow TV, I think, does.
Yep.
So there's a bunch. You can.
Yeah, that's what he meant. Okay.
Yeah. But you have to. Yes. So at the end, yes, you have to pay. I'll give you an example, though, Bilal. My daughter lives in Ireland, and she wants to watch her brother play. Mm-hmm. So she pays $5, $4.99, whatever it is, for a game to watch it when she's overseas.
Yeah. ESPN Plus does a good job of that. And Pierre, you've been on there yourself doing some games. All right. Next question. A to Z me. Maybe I'm just speaking for myself, but hockey tournaments without Russia don't feel right. How do you guys feel about it if you're allowed to talk about it?
I'm allowed to talk about it. I don't care.
We'll talk.
If you want. None of those Russian kids that are on those hockey teams, they're not fighting in a war. I bet you half of them wouldn't even want to be part of that.
Yeah.
I feel terrible for the people in Ukraine, by the way. I really do. My father's father's from Ukraine, so I feel terrible for those people. Yeah. It's awful. But I don't think any major international event is that. I think I talked to Jimmy about this. I think there should be an asterisk on every single tournament that doesn't have Russian participation. As the players. I'm not talking about the political stuff, and I'm not talking about the war's terrible. It's awful. It's disgusting.
Yeah. I look at it this way, Pierre, and I'm with you. I'm 100%. I don't want to get into the politics or anything, but a war is war. To me, your politics go out the door when you see something like what's been going on there. It's just wrong, plain and simple.
Yes.
But what I will say is, aren't we kind of being contradictory when we're punishing these kids who, like you said, they don't have anything to do with this. They didn't choose to go. They don't. And like you said, I would think the majority of them do not believe in what their government's doing and not agree with what Putin's doing. It's not their fault. And if we're just doing this to stick it to Putin, I just find that petty because I don't think it's fair to the kids.
Yeah. So Panarin to me is a voice of reason on this. And I've read a bunch of stuff that he said, and he's right. He's right. He doesn't endorse this at all. He doesn't endorse
it. Good on him. He's brave to do that.
He is, but he's put it out there, and I'm on his side.
Yeah. And I know people that are over there. I know people from Russia that are for this, but did they be punished because of what Putin's doing? I don't know.
I don't want to go down that road because I know too many. Obviously, I've got a lot of friends over there.
Yeah.
Just
whatever. Let's just hope it.
I just want
itself and there's peace soon.
Yeah.
All right. Next question. State of survival. Who's most likely to drop in this draft? Well, it could be the man and the kid that he just mentioned, Iserman.
There could be a couple. There could be a couple D-men that drop. I think it's going to be really beauty in the eye of the beholder with this draft. What sometimes, more times than not, people draft players that are the best players. They don't worry about organizational need. This draft might be, okay, we have an organizational need. We're going to address it. Yeah, I'll use Montreal as an example.
I was just going to say, I think that, yeah, go for it.
Do they really need more defense?
No.
No. The one thing they need pure scoring.
Mm-hmm.
They do. Are there going to be defensemen prospects that are maybe better than a pure scorer? Could be.
Mm-hmm.
So Montreal might just say, we got enough defense. We're going to draft a scorer because we need a scorer. And we can't get free agents to come here yet.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah,
that's one example.
I think that's the perfect example of drafting need. All right, next question. Jason Logan, have you seen the PWHL final? It's been fantastic. We have a game now. I think it means that we have a series. And Jason, yeah. Unreal. I heard I didn't see it yesterday, but I heard what happened. We think we have a goalie interference controversy here, man.
No, there's no controversy. That was no goal.
I know, but they thought they won.
I know, well, listen, the young ladies from Boston battled through, and now Minnesota's got to go on the road, and they got to win a game.
Yeah,
at the Songa Center up there in Lowell.
Yeah,
just to go win one game. So Jimmy, what the exciting part is, they had almost 14,000 Minnesota at XL.
Mm-hmm.
They're sold out already at Songas. They were sold.
Okay, so I was just
after. Okay. 10 minutes after the game was over, the tickets were sold. So
good.
It's great. It's outstanding.
Okay. Then I'm going to bite my tongue on what I was going to say because I had a little issue with I just another time we'll get into it about where they play here. I just wish it was a little closer to Boston. That's all. I think it would help them a lot. All right, next question. Alex Ivanowski, I would take Jacob Trouba on my team any day. People need to stop getting all worked up about this stuff. It's hockey. I don't want to ever see hockey played without hitting, checking, and fighting. Alex, I think we all agree, but I also don't want to see Jacob Trouba take some guy's head off and end his career.
We all agree.
Let's find a happy medium. That's what we need to do.
So there were so many. I coached the late Brian Marchman. There were a lot of people that were really mad at him for a long time because they thought he did a lot of knee on knee. I wanted him on my team, not because of that, but there were a lot of guys that were really petrified to play against him.
Exactly.
A lot of guys didn't like playing against Scotty Stevens. A lot of guys didn't like playing against Darian or Kevin Hatcher. A lot of guys didn't like playing against a lot of big people that could smack you. In his prime, Gordy Kluzak wasn't a bunch of fun to play against in Boston. So, you can go down Craig Muni. I can go down the line. Kevin Lowe. There were a lot of guys. Nobody really liked playing against them. So Trouba is one of those guys. It's interesting. It hasn't been brought up because that soundbite that you sent to me about Paul.
Oh, yeah. We forgot to use it, Pierre. We'll talk about it.
We'll use it tomorrow. That's not going away anytime soon.
Exactly.
I'm surprised nobody's talked to Paul about you coach Jacob Trouba. Did you ever see him do anything like this when he played for you? And what did you think about it? That's the question.
Yep.
How come nobody's asked him that?
They should.
Have you heard one person ask him about?
No, I haven't. And the only person I've heard bring that up, other than you now, Pierre, is Jeff Marek, our good friend Jeff Marek. He brought it up today, but that's it.
Okay, I don't know that. What I'm doing all morning. I'm at the rink or I'm training my guys. But all I'm telling you is, I saw your soundbite that you sent to me, and I go, how come nobody's asking him about freaking coaching the guy?
Yeah, I know. Well, we'll talk more about that tomorrow. Let's get the final questions, but it is a great point. And by the way, too, do you think with him, Trouba, too? I'm totally for. I like a guy that plays on the edge. I think I'd want him on my team as well. The only thing to be careful, though, is he's the captain, and they need him out there. They can't afford to let him get suspended, and that all eyes are once again going to be on him for the rest of this series. So he's got to walk that line. He cannot cross it again. He has to walk it or they're in trouble. All right, next question. Evan McLaren, I could be wrong, but my perception is that the NHLPA historically puts more energy into defending the rights of players subject to disciplinary action than it puts into player safety. Am I off base? No, you are 100% right, in my opinion, Evan.
Evan, that's a good take. I've been in numerous hearings. That's a really good take.
Mhm.
That was under a different regime.
Yep. It's happened.
LPA. So this is not tied into Marty Walsh and his group now.
Yep.
Jimmy, I'm on the record. I never did any arbitrations or any hearings with Marty Walsh's Players Association stuff, a different regime. But that definitely was true back in the day when I was around. I'll tell you that.
I'll tell you this, Pierre. I remember when Paul Kelly was running the NHLPA, when he was there, and he came in and in some of his first meetings with the union brought that up. I know this for a fact, and it was not well received. But he's like, but it's the truth. It's the cold, hard truth no one wants to talk about, but it's something that needs to be looked at. There needs to be more consideration for safety for each other. It really does.
The nicest nights I ever had with a person from the PA was I had dinner. Gordon Miller and I had dinner with Paul Kelly at the Five Fishermen in Halifax. It was fantastic.
Oh,
Paul was so good.
He's such a great guy.
The conversation was phenomenal.
Yep.
I'll always remember that night. It was a really great dinner, and Paul was such a gentleman, but he was so passionate about trying to do what was right for the players. It was really good.
I'll say this too quick, and I don't know if he's listening, but I'll thank him because I'll never forget. He was a prosecutor, before he became.
Those were some of the stories he was telling.
Oh yeah, and so he went head to head with my father, who was a defense lawyer once.
Oh, there you go.
And so when I started to get to know him, when he took his job at the NHLPA, and I knew him through Russ Conway, and we figured out, they went. And he said, "Well, you tell your dad I always respected him. He's a good Irishman from Dorchester." And he reached out when my dad passed too. So,
that's really nice. That's good.
Yeah. All right, next question. Randy Workman, who is the best D-man in this draft?
Too early to tell. Give us another week to 10 days.
Yeah. All right, next question. Jeffrey B. Is the Memorial Cup London's to lose? I have never seen an OHL team this deep.
Yeah, the only thing I'd say is Saginaw on home ice could be a problem, but no, it's London's to lose, I believe. Yeah.
All right, next question. Oh, we have one more. Here we go. Mike, do the Panthers consider any adjustments after losing back-to-back games that I think they dominated for the majority of the time? Do you stay the course and hope the bounces finally go your way? I think that's exactly what Pierre was saying before.
Yeah, the only thing I'd say, Mike, is their gap in the neutral zone's got to be a little bit better defensively. And I think if they do that, that'll frustrate the Rangers, force more turnovers, and then Florida can get their ground and pound game going, which is where they really thrive.
Yep. Good stuff. All right. Well, we want to thank friend Scott Lennox.
Awesome. Scotty was
great. That was really interesting. Good stuff for joining us here on the Eye Test on the Sick Podcast Network. And of course, thank our production crew up in Montreal. And to you, the listeners and viewers, for your awesome questions as always. For Pierre McGuire, I'm Jimmy Murphy. We'll talk to you tomorrow on the Eye Test.
And that's a wrap. Hope you don't miss us too much until next time. Follow the Eye Test with Pierre McGuire and Jimmy Murphy on YouTube, Facebook, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts. Brought to you by TCS Customs and Logistics. Moving pieces, delivering peace of mind.